Drayton, Oregon, a peaceful land where babbling brooks wind through lush green fields, and the wind whispers gently through rows of tall, straight trees. On August 18, 2018, this place was the backdrop for a small, warm wedding. Smiles, clinking glasses, and lively music filled the air at Heiser Farms. But just a few hours later, a strange call came through to the police center. A woman's voice spoke on the line, oddly calm for the situation. "Hi, I'm not sure if I should be calling this number, but my daughter's been missing since last night. I'm a bit worried. She's supposed to be at work and there's no sign of her." Her name was Jennifer Weathers, 50 years old, and the missing woman was her daughter, Megan C., 27. They had attended the wedding together the night before. But here's where things get strange. Jennifer didn't call 911, she chose to call the non-emergency line. Even stranger, she hadn't tried to call Megan. No texts. No missed calls. Nothing. Instead, she claimed she had driven around for 2 hours looking for her daughter, but eventually had to return home because her granddaughter, Megan's 3-year-old daughter, was still in the car. According to Jennifer, the two had gotten into a heated argument after leaving the wedding. She said Megan, sitting in the back seat, yanked her mother's hair while they were yelling. Jennifer slammed on the brakes and screamed, "What are you doing?" "Gia is right here," referring to the toddler in the car. Then Jennifer said Megan opened the door and jumped out while the car was nearly stopped. She claimed she panicked, called Megan's name, looked around but couldn't see her. Then turned the car around, still nothing, so she drove home just like that. It almost sounded plausible, until the police started digging deeper. When they inspected Jennifer's car, several details didn't match her story. Megan's shoes and phone were on the front seat, not the back, and more disturbingly, a clump of blonde hair ripped from the scalp was tangled on the seat. Later DNA analysis revealed the hair didn't belong to Megan. It belonged to Jennifer. So who pulled whose hair? And if Megan had been in the back seat, why were all her belongings in the front? When brought in for questioning, Jennifer didn't act like a mother desperate to find her missing child. Arms crossed, legs calmly folded, she spoke slowly. Her calm was chilling. She recounted, "She pulled my hair. I reacted by hitting her hand so she'd let go. I don't remember how many times I hit." Detectives asked again, "You're sure you only hit her hand?" She hesitated. "I think so. I just swung my arm back." And when asked why she didn't try calling Megan before reporting her missing, Jennifer at first claimed she had, but then admitted, "I had her phone. It was on the front seat. No, under the seat when I got Gia out of the car." Dodgy answers, a flat expression, something wasn't right and police could feel it. Witnesses began to come forward. Wedding guests said Jennifer had been drunk, that the argument between mother and daughter wasn't just a minor fight. They had screamed at each other, nearly come to blows right there in front of everyone. Someone had even stepped in to separate them. Then came another account, small, innocent, but one that shifted the whole investigation. It was from Gia, the 3-year-old daughter, the only witness from start to finish. In a session with a child psychologist, Gia shared, "Mommy got out of the car and came back, then got out again and didn't come back the next time." Simple, innocent, but weighty. By then, Megan was still missing. Search teams, including firefighters, police officers, and over 300 volunteers, were combing the forests, rivers, and slopes surrounding Dayton. Among them was Megan's biological father, a fire chief from Clackamas. But all searches came up empty, until the 5th day. A citizen made a report. A woman's body had been found at the bottom of a steep embankment off Highway 18. No shoes, no phone, and no more hope. It was Megan. Her body showed signs of severe trauma, but what caught the forensic team's attention most were her feet, nearly spotless. No cuts, no bruises, no signs she had walked even a few feet from where she supposedly jumped from the car. If she had left the vehicle on her own and walked down that slope, how could her feet be that clean? Where was the dirt, the scratches, the footprints? Still, there was no direct evidence. No surveillance footage, no eyewitnesses. And somehow Jennifer stuck to her story, only tweaking small details here and there. Eventually, the district attorney had to make a grim announcement. There wasn't enough evidence to charge Jennifer with murder. The only charge they could press was DUI and reckless endangerment, a heartbreakingly minor charge for the loss of a young life. Jennifer was arrested, but later released on bail. She changed her last name, was barred from contacting her granddaughter, and went on living as if nothing had ever happened. All that remained was Gia, the 3-year-old who had last seen her mother alive. You know what's the strangest part? It was Megan vanishing after a fight. It wasn't Jennifer calling the non-emergency line instead of 911. It was the way she told the story, as if it were nothing more than a minor misunderstanding, a trivial squabble between mother and daughter, then just drove home, went to bed, and the next morning suddenly remembered her daughter hadn't come back. Who does that to their own child? When Jennifer walked into the interrogation room, the air turned heavy. She didn't cry, didn't seem distraught, not even a flicker of confusion. She sat upright, arms crossed, eyes scanning the room, and began recounting the night in a cold, even tone. We argued. She pulled my hair. I just tried to get her hand off me. Then she wanted to get out of the car. I stopped almost completely. She opened the door and jumped out. That simple, but soon her story began to fall apart. Jennifer claimed Megan had been sitting in the back with Gia, but Megan's shoes and phone were found up front. And more than that, a large clump of blonde hair, complete with skin from the scalp, was found near the gear shift. One investigator lined in, voice steady. If Megan was in the back, how did her shoes and phone end up in the front? Then why is there a clump of hair torn out lying here? Jennifer didn't respond right away. She furrowed her brow, then shrugged. Maybe I grabbed it when I was getting Gia out. But here's the problem. She had already said Megan never came back to the car after jumping out. So how did her shoes and phone, her essentials, not go with her? Everything in Jennifer's story felt hastily patched together. A narrative built to dodge blame, not seek the truth. At the time, police couldn't press murder charges. But they were starting to see something clearly. There was far more being hidden here than anyone was willing to say. The morning after Megan went missing, Jennifer woke up and realized her daughter hadn't come home. But instead of panicking, calling 911, or at the very least, calling Megan herself, she dialed the non-emergency line. Her tone detached, as if she were asking about a missing cat, not her missing daughter. Police asked, "Did you try calling Megan before reporting her missing?" Jennifer replied, "No, I had her phones." "Where did you find it?" "Under the front seat when I got Gia out." She said it without realizing this directly contradicted everything she had claimed earlier. That Megan had been in the backseat, that she had run down the slope to look for her, and that she hadn't left the car too far because she didn't want to leave her granddaughter alone. And then something that made everyone shudder. When Jennifer recounted the moment Megan left the car, her eyes didn't flicker, her voice was mechanical, like reciting a memorized script. I almost came to a complete stop. She opened the door, stepped out, I called her name, saw nothing, turned the car around, looked for a bit, then went home. A mother, in the middle of the night, after her daughter vanished into the empty countryside, could simply drive away as if nothing had happened. She said she searched, but no one saw her searching. No one heard her calling out Megan's name. And if she was truly panicked, why didn't she go back to the wedding where dozens of people could have helped? When asked about her relationship with Megan, Jennifer spoke as if her daughter had always been a troubled child, always causing problems, impulsive, irresponsible. She recounted dryly, "She'd pull my hair whenever she got angry. One time she screamed in the middle of the street. I just tried to stay calm because Gia was in the car." From beginning to end, Jennifer repeatedly emphasized that she did nothing wrong, that everything that happened was because Megan couldn't control her emotions. Not once did she say, "I wish I'd done things differently." Not once. Police began to suspect not just her testimony, but her disturbingly cold demeanor. Throughout the interrogation, Jennifer leaned back in her chair, arms folded. At times, she let out a sarcastic laugh. At others, she criticized Megan for being irresponsible, impulsive, acting out in front of her daughter. She said everything as if the blame belonged to the dead. And she, the only adult present when the tragedy occurred, walked away seemingly free of any responsibility. But then, the first real light didn't come from Jennifer. It came from a small witness, a 3-year-old named Gia, Megan's daughter. Police couldn't use the testimony of a child as direct evidence. But when they gently asked questions in a child-friendly room, Gia shared something that changed everything. "I saw Mommy get out of the car, then come back. Then she got out again. Then Grandma closed the door. Then Mommy didn't come back." Megan didn't leave for good the first time. She came back to the car. That detail shattered the entire theory that she had angrily jumped out. Because if she was so furious she threw herself from the car, why return? Something must have happened between those moments. Another argument, a physical struggle. A final fatal push. By the end of the interrogation, as Jennifer was backed into a corner, her voice began to slow. Her eyes shifted from side to side. When asked, "Are you sure you only hit Megan's hand?" Oh, she hesitated. "I think so, I just swung my arm, it wasn't on purpose." Police couldn't draw a conclusion right then. But they knew one thing, this woman was not telling the whole truth. The lack of remorse, the contradictions. The haunting words of a 3-year-old, they were all weaving a story far darker than anyone wanted to believe. On the 5th day after Megan disappeared, her body was found. A passerby noticed something below a steep slope off Highway 18, a desolate area overgrown with weeds with no streetlights. And there, hidden among thick brush, was a decomposing body. No shoes, no purse, no phone. No signs she had walked any distance. Megan's bare feet were clean, as if she had been placed there. Gently, or worse, thrown there after losing consciousness or after she had already died. The autopsy revealed serious injuries. Her head and neck had suffered blunt force trauma, but no visible stab wounds or gunshots. No scratch marks from crawling in panic, no dirt under her nails, nothing to suggest she had fought for her life. The cause of death. A vague conclusion, trauma from an impact, possibly from falling out of a moving vehicle, or perhaps from a push, a blow, a confrontation that ended in death. Jennifer was brought back in for another interrogation. But this time it wasn't gentle. Police laid out the evidence she had never mentioned, Megan's shoes and phone on the front seat. The clump of hair with the scalp still attached, Gia's account. Wedding guests who testified that the mother and daughter had a heated fight, that Jennifer was heavily intoxicated, that they shouted and insulted each other before leaving. Jennifer denied it all. She stuck to her original story. "She jumped from the car, I didn't do anything. I just drove around to look for her, then took Gia home." But something in her eyes had changed. The confidence was cracking, a flicker of unease crept in. When asked why she didn't call 911 that night, she replied, "I thought Megan would come back. She stormed off like that before." "So why did you wait until the next morning to call?" "I don't know, I was tired. Gia was crying, I had to take care of her." But not a single word about Megan, not one expression of genuine fear. Not once did she say, "I was afraid something had happened to my daughter." Oh, she didn't shed a tear. She just sat there trying to hold together a story that was crumbling at the seams. And yet, the most painful truth, all these suspicions still weren't enough to charge Jennifer with murder. The district attorney's office worked tirelessly, combing through every piece of evidence, every conflicting statement, even a lie detector test. The results showed Jennifer likely wasn't telling the truth, but lie detectors aren't admissible in court. There were no direct witnesses, no camera footage, no DNA or fingerprints at the scene, no one saw a push, no one heard a scream, and so they had to accept a devastating truth: they couldn't charge her with killing her own daughter. Prosecutor Brad Berry stood in front of the press, his voice heavy with disappointment. We believe something serious happened that night, but the law doesn't allow us to prosecute without clear evidence. It's not for lack of effort. It's just some truths remain in the shadows out of our reach. Jennifer was arrested, but not for murder. She was convicted only of driving under the influence and endangering a child, specifically little Gia. The trial was quick, little debate, the sentence probation, and a permanent restraining order banning her from contacting her granddaughter. That's it. After all the pain, the loss, the fury, Jennifer Weathers walked out of court with a new name. Jennifer Georger, empty-handed, free, as if no one had ever died. But that 3-year-old girl, Gia, is still alive. And she is growing up in a world where her mother never came back from a wedding. And where the last person to see her alive, her grandmother, is someone she's never allowed to see again. When asked about that night, Gia, despite being so young, recalled a chilling detail. She said her mom got out of the car, then came back, then got out again and never returned. And the last thing she saw, her grandmother closed, and then she drove away. The little girl said something that sent a chill through everyone who heard it. "I told Grandma, let's go. And she said, okay." That was it, a decision, a nod, and an entire life vanished from this world. People still ask one haunting question: was it an accident or a murder cleverly disguised? And perhaps the true answer died with Megan on that quiet summer night in the fields of Oregon. Megan C., 27 years old. A young mother who loved her daughter fiercely. A woman trying to rebuild her life after everything had fallen apart. She never got that chance, not because of fate, but because someone made a choice to stay silent. A choice not to stop the car, not to turn back, and worst of all, a choice to make sure Megan never had a chance to survive. And Jennifer, maybe she'll live out the rest of her life untouched by the law. But the question is, will she ever sleep in peace, when every night her daughter's eyes, her granddaughter's voice, and that dark,